Hello and welcome, dedicated English learners, to our advanced conversational space. This is the podcast where we move beyond basic vocabulary and help you build authentic, nuanced speaking skills for real life. I am Caspian.
And I am Alara. We are delighted you have chosen to spend this time with us. Today, we are exploring a topic that is both profoundly simple and remarkably powerful: how to describe your day in English. Not just fragmented sentences, but coherent, flowing narratives that allow you to share your experiences with clarity and confidence.
This is a foundational skill, Alara. Often learners focus on abstract topics, politics, philosophy, or complex news stories, while neglecting the most authentic and accessible content, their own lives. Your daily routine is a treasure trove of vocabulary and grammatical structures. It is the perfect training ground for fluency.
Absolutely. And there is a beautiful logic to this approach. When you describe your day, you're working with material you know intimately. You don't need to invent ideas or wrestle with unfamiliar concepts. You simply translate your lived experience into English. This reduces cognitive load and allows you to focus on the mechanics of expression.
Exactly. The goal is to progress from short, staccato sentences to fuller, more fluid ideas. Instead of just saying, "I wake up," you can say, "I wake up slowly, savoring the last moments of warmth before I face the day." Instead of "I have coffee," you can say, "I brew a strong cup of coffee, and that first sip is the real signal that my day has begun."
That is a beautiful example. We're moving from mere description to narrative, and that shift is where true fluency begins to emerge. So let's start at the very beginning, the morning. Caspian, how would you describe a typical morning using richer, more descriptive language?
Well, a typical morning for me is a carefully orchestrated series of rituals. I usually surface from sleep around 6:30 a.m., though occasionally I'll allow myself an extra half hour of luxurious inactivity if I've had a demanding week. The first moments are crucial. I don't immediately grab my phone. Instead, I take a few deep breaths, stretch my limbs, and mentally prepare for the hours ahead.
That is incredibly mindful. Many people jolt awake to the blare of an alarm and immediately dive into digital chaos. By contrast, you're describing a gentle transition. That itself is a rich topic for discussion.
Indeed. After that initial grounding, I move to the bathroom for the morning hygiene ritual, brushing, washing, and the invigorating splash of cold water on my face. It's a sensory reset. Then I proceed to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. I usually prefer something simple but nourishing, perhaps eggs with toast or a hearty bowl of oatmeal with fresh berries.
And I notice you're not just listing actions, you're adding texture and purpose to each step. You're describing the why and how, not just the what. This is what makes a narrative compelling. For me, mornings are a bit more rushed, but I still try to include that moment of intention.
Exactly. We can contrast our styles. I might say I typically brew a strong cup of coffee and sit by the window for a few minutes of quiet reflection before the digital world intrudes. This is a masterclass in descriptive English. You're using verbs like brew and intrudes, which are more vivid than make and comes. You're also including a contextual setting, by the window, and an emotional element, quiet reflection. This transforms a mundane activity into a story.
Precisely. And this approach isn't just for show. It's a powerful memory tool. When you attach vocabulary to sensory details and emotions, your brain encodes the information more deeply. So let's move through the day. After the morning, we have the afternoon, the busiest segment for most people.
The afternoon is often characterized by productivity, but also the notorious energy slump. I usually have lunch around 1 p.m., and it's essential that I keep it light. A heavy meal will trigger the dreaded postprandial dip, making me lethargic and unproductive. I often opt for a solid with lean protein or a simple vegetable soup.
That's a crucial detail, the postprandial dip. It's a biological reality, and acknowledging it in your narrative adds authenticity. I also schedule my most demanding tasks for the late morning before that dip sets in. In the afternoon, I'm usually in meetings or working on creative projects. I also force myself to take a micro break around 3 p.m.
Yes, that break is vital. I might step outside for a few minutes of fresh air, or I'll brew a cup of green tea and simply stare out the window. It's a way of rebooting my cognitive functions. And this is a perfect opportunity to practice English description. At 3 o'clock, I paused my work, made a cup of ginger tea, and gazed out at the gray sky, feeling my thoughts slowly untangle.
That is beautifully articulated. You're not just saying, I took a break, you're painting a picture. Now, if someone is listening and wants to practice this, they could start with simple sentence starters. For example, after lunch, I usually, or in the afternoon, I try to, or if I have time, I like to.
Absolutely. Let's provide some concrete examples. They could say, in the afternoon, I usually return to my desk and prioritize my emails. I often have a virtual meeting with my team to discuss our progress. I find that keeping my workspace organized helps me maintain focus. Let's also address the evening. The evening is the time for unwinding, reflection, and preparation for the next day. I usually arrive home around 6:30 p.m. I deliberately change out of my work clothes, which is a psychological signal that the performance is over.
That's a smart behavioral cue. I do the same. Then I prepare dinner. I find cooking to be a meditative activity. While I chop vegetables or stir a pan, I often listen to a podcast, ironically, often in English. It's a way to keep my ears engaged without feeling like I'm studying.
After dinner, I engage in a digital sunset. I try to eliminate screens for at least an hour before bed. Instead, I might read a physical book or write in my journal. I often write a brief summary of the day in English, just 3 or 4 sentences. This is an excellent habit for learners.
That journaling practice is powerful. It consolidates learning. For example, today was productive. I completed my project and had a pleasant lunch with a colleague. I feel tired but satisfied. These simple sentences are incredibly effective for building fluency.
Now, let's address the shadowing practice that Tom mentioned in the original source material. Shadowing is the act of listening to a speaker and repeating what they say in real time, mimicking their intonation and rhythm. It is one of the most potent methods for improving pronunciation and speaking fluidity.
It truly is, and we can practice it right now. I'll say a few sentences about my evening routine, and I encourage you, the listener, to pause and shadow them. Try to copy not just my words, but my tone and pace.
In the evening, I like to unwind by taking a leisurely walk around my neighborhood. Pause for shadowing.
Excellent. I find that the fresh air and the quiet streets help clear my mind after a long day. Pause.
Before I fall asleep, I often reflect on the highlights of my day and think about what I am grateful for. Pause.
A consistent evening routine helps me sleep better and wake up feeling more refreshed and ready for the challenges ahead. Pause.
That is an excellent shadowing exercise. It forces your brain to process and produce language simultaneously, which is precisely what you need for real-time conversation. Now, let's take a moment to emphasize the importance of building a personal narrative.
Yes, we are not just collecting random words. We are constructing a story. Every day is a chapter. The more you practice telling your story, the more fluent and comfortable you become. And the beauty is that you can start with just a single sentence.
Exactly. I woke up at 7. That's a valid sentence. Tomorrow, you can expand it. I woke up at 7, but I felt unusually tired, so I stayed in bed for an extra 10 minutes. The following day, you can add even more detail. It's an iterative process.
And this is where the concept of scaffolding in education applies. You are building a structure. You start with a simple foundation, and gradually you add more complex layers. This is how language acquisition naturally unfolds.
To further solidify these concepts, let's do a deep dive into the key vocabulary we've woven into our discussion. We've used several advanced terms that warrant precise definition so our listeners can wield them with confidence.
An excellent idea. Let's start with narrative. This refers to a spoken or written account of connected events. Example, I am constructing a narrative about my day to practice fluency.
Next, we have cognitive load. This is the total amount of mental effort being used in the working memory. Example, describing familiar topics reduces my cognitive load, allowing me to focus on pronunciation.
We also mentioned the postprandial dip, which is the state of drowsiness or lethargy that can occur after eating a meal. Example, I avoid heavy lunches to prevent the postprandial dip from destroying my productivity.
Another valuable term is intentionality. This is the quality of being deliberate or purposeful. Example, I approach my evening routine with intentionality, choosing activities that genuinely restore my energy.
We've used the word iterative. This means repeating a process to achieve a desired result, with each repetition building on the previous one. Example, learning to describe my day is an iterative process. I get better with each attempt.
And finally, metacognition. This is the awareness and understanding of one's own thought processes. Example, journaling at night enhances my metacognition, helping me understand how I learn and feel.
These terms are not just vocabulary to memorize. They are tools for thinking. When you know these words, you can better understand the mechanics of your own learning. Now, let's synthesize everything.
The core takeaway is this. Your daily life is your ultimate English classroom. You don't need a plane ticket, a native friend, or a pile of grammar books. You just need the courage to speak about what you already know.
Start small. This evening, before you go to bed, try to recite just 3 sentences about your day. I woke up at 7, I worked on a project, I had pasta for dinner. That is a beginning. Tomorrow, add more detail. The following day, add some emotion.
We have a comprehensive PDF companion for this episode, available for download through the link below. It contains the full transcript of this advanced discussion, the complete vocabulary glossary, and a practical workbook to guide you through building your own daily routine narrative.
We also want to issue a challenge. In the comments below, write a short paragraph about your day. It doesn't have to be long, just 4 or 5 sentences. Share your story with us and with the community. This is a powerful way to externalize your learning and receive encouragement.
If you found this episode valuable, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone you know who is also on this journey. Your engagement supports this space and helps us continue to create these advanced resources for you.
Until next time, take care of your mind, take care of your habits, and never stop investing in your English. Goodbye for now.